I know that you've all been prepared for this, but I thought I'd just remind you just the same.
Can you handle that, Blondie?
Game over, man. Game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
It was pure evil.
I want to buy some radio ad time.
And we're back for another episode of Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. I'm your host, Vincent Green. He's your host, Noel John Toohey. Let's get to it. So, Noel, you're back, and I'm happy to see you, buddy. And we came together. We came together for this 1987 cult classic called Event Horizon, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, credited as Paul Anderson, starring Lawrence Fishburne, Sam Neill, Kathleen Quinlan, and Jolie Richardson, and a whole assortment of people that we got to know better. You know, Jason Isaacs, Sean Pertwee. You know, so the cast is really, really stacked. This was your recommendation. Noel, do you have a long history with this movie? Because I hadn't seen it in a long time. So
me being the old guy. I went to this movie in the cinema. All my friends were going to a party, and I couldn't get anyone to cover. Yeah, I couldn't get anyone to cover or get permission or anything. So I said, like, all right, you guys go ahead. I'm just going to kill some time. And I went to the cinema, and I went to this on my own. And then I got home, and I sat up, and I had a couple of sneaky drinks out of my dad's cabinet, and then I found out Princess Diana had just died. That's where I was. The night the Princess Diana just died. I was in the cinema watching Event Horizon.
Was she on the ship?
No. She might have been better off.
Too soon, peeps? Too soon?
Too soon.
Sound off in the comments. But yeah, that's fucked up actually, yeah, because I can remember, not to go too deep down the Princess Diana rabbit hole, but I can remember being like a young kid, being asleep on the couch and waking up like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning or something, and the news was starting to slowly come through that something happened around that time. But
I was watching Channel 4 and it just went dead air. And it reminded me of the films I'd watched, you know, like where the emergency broadcast signal just starts going through. Yeah,
nothing good ever follows that. Yeah.
Because I was very young watching this film. I was 14, I think. And I was just, you know, like, I loved horror, but I was obviously not as battle-hardened as I am now.
Yeah. When horror still scared you.
When horror still scared me, yeah. I right these days I get jump scares sometimes, but I don't really end up afraid of a film, like, you know. Yeah,
and it doesn't really stay with you afterwards either.
No, I watched this film today. I enjoyed it. I'm really glad I picked it. But I watched it at about 12 o'clock midday, and I had a cup of tea, you know, and a sausage and a piece of toast, and I just enjoyed it. Like, you know, that's
the 14-year-old you is looking back. It's like, dude, where's the popcorn? Where's the sneaky alcohol? What's going on?
That's it.
Fucking, where's who I became the tea and crumpets guy?
I'm just not cool, like, you
know. But what you call it? No, I'm the same way. Like, when I was younger, horrors scared the shit out of me, and I kept coming back for that thrill of the fear. But now you come back, like, it's like you're chasing the dragon.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like you want to feel that fear again and again.
That original high, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, and that's why I think when you get older, the movies that do scare you, you hold maybe in higher regard than they even are. You know what I mean? Because you're just so happy to feel that high again, that rush of being afraid, you know?
Exactly. And Event Horizon at the time, for me, I left that feeling like this is a really good movie. You said before we start recording that somebody, I don't know, in Twitterverse said that, you know, horror movies shouldn't be in space. And I couldn't have disagreed more, and this would be an excellent example because the hopelessness and, I mean, there's nowhere safe. If you're not safe on the ship, there is literally nothing but death around it.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's probably like less death on the ship, but a lot of death. So there's just like, you can deal with like a lot of death or impossible amounts of death. Exactly. And that's an excellent setting for something like a horror film.
Because it's like before we said recording, you were like, in space, you can run out of food, you can run out of air, and then I was like, but you can't run out the door.
You can't run out the door.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
But imagine you could run out of air. Like, even if you're like locked in like you're under siege in a police precinct.
Yeah.
Like, you can run out of bullets and you can run out of food and all of this kind of thing, but you're literally not going to run out of air to breathe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so, or gravity won't give up on you. You know
Yeah,
what
it's
I mean?
the thing that's so scary about isolationist horror in space is that like when the clock starts ticking, it's death. Like there's no, oh, the clock
yes,
starts ticking, maybe we can get out here in time before it blows up. No, you're going to die. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like if
yeah,
you're not like there is no escape. Like, you know, like in space, as soon as your options start getting cut down, it always leads to death. It's like because it's very hard to be found and rescued in space. Or you
yes.
could be, you know what I mean? You could be in the North
If not
Pole.
impossible. A lot of
Yeah,
times, you know,
exactly.
you wake up from the hyper sleep chamber. You're 5 years into deep space.
Look at Ripley in the end of Aliens. She woke up. It was like
Exactly.
hundreds of years later.
Yeah, hundreds of years later. So that anyway, to cut the wheat from the chaff a little bit, this starts with a very secret mission that they were suddenly sent on out towards Neptune. They sleep for like 72 days, and then the doctor tells them that we're here. I think the year was 2040 or 2047.
Yeah.
And he goes, "We're here to find the Event Horizon ship," and that was a myth because that ship had blown up. That ship was gone. That was well known. You say not true. This is top secret. The ship is bleeding edge technology, and we don't know what happened to it. And
because at the start of the movie, they kind of give like a little quick ticker of the different advances humans have made into space throughout the timeline of this civilization. And
space moon colony in 2015.
Yeah.
Wrong.
And they were like, mining Mars by like 2032 or something.
Yeah, that was it.
And in 2040 they sent Deep Horizon into space, Event Horizon into space, and
to the outer solar system.
Yeah, into deep space, and then they lost all contact with it. And then 7 years later, this signal starts being emanating, and they identify it as the Event Horizon. And this is what leads Sam Neill's character to be on the Lewis and Clark, the ship captained by Lawrence Fishburne, and they don't know what's going on until, as you said, Sam Neill kind of sits them around the comms table or whatever, and it goes through the whole thing. And then, as you said, like they believe it's just a myth that they've been set. They were supposed to go on leave, and they think it's a load of bullshit and it's a waste of their time. Like, you know what I mean? They think they've been sent out here on a wild goose chase, like, you know what I mean? Kind of like a rich man's folly.
Lawrence Fishburne's character, Captain. Sorry, just so I get it right, Captain who?
Oh, sorry, Captain Miller. I'm pretty sure.
Captain Miller. He makes it very clear by his character from the start that he wants things just done. He doesn't have because he kind of keeps interjecting with the doctor and going,
Mr. Mission.
Mr. Mission, exactly. And so he was just like, it's an honor to be here. Well, it's not an honor for us because we were just dragged out to New Neptune without any notice, tearing away from our families, and we want to know why. And he says, the Event Horizon. They find the Event Horizon. I remember thinking to myself, did they purposely build the ship to be the spookiest looking fucking thing?
Every ship in this is creepy as fuck. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even the space station they're on at the start of the movie, and I was just like, oh, that just looks like hell in space.
Yeah. I want the ship to make people think of hope. I was thinking sex dungeon.
It's like, I want to go demonic.
Yeah,
it's never been done before.
Sex dungeon, demonic. That's been done.
Yeah. So like, to cut through the first minutes of the movie, they go to the outer, atmosphere of Neptune, and then as they're traveling through this like cloud storm or whatever the fuck, I'm not sure if the physics are very on point in this movie, but like they quickly are on the Event Horizon, and they can have to slow down and jam up before they can make port and go on board to Event Horizon to investigate what happened to the previous crew and shit like this. And I said to you before we start recording that there's scenes like this reminded me a lot of Sunshine. That when the crew from Icarus 1 find the ship from Icarus 2. The crew from Icarus 2 find the Icarus 1 and then go on board to investigate.
Actually, sorry, now that you say that, it even had the ship sent out to find the Doom ship kind of aspect of it.
They weren't sent out to find the Doom ship. They were the last resort, and they decided to go off course to get
because there was twice the chance to reignite the sun.
Yeah, because he was like, 2 bombs are better than 1 or some bullshit like
that. Yeah. But no, this was great. Like, I mean, it kind of gets into it pretty quickly. I was very happy with the pacing.
You need to, don't you? In this movie.
You do, yeah. They get on the ship, and it's absolutely fucking terrifying looking. So everyone decides to split up. First and
Yeah.
foremost. the film.
Yeah.
And then they had one joke, and I didn't spot it the first time I watched. The woman, I'm not sure what her specialty was, Mama Bear, they were calling her.
What the fuck that's
She
all
goes
about.
into a room, she looks at the console, and she goes, "Oh, blood." And then there's a flash of like light or lightning or something. I don't know what, maybe from Neptune or something. And you can see that the whole wall is just like a human grenade was just set up. It's just flashing blood and guts and stuff, like completely splattered everywhere.
What did you make of the scene that, like, you know, right before, right as they, I think it was right as they, when they docked with the Event Horizon, that like they showed up on the bridge. Lawrence Fishburne was there with, you know, the crew on the bridge, and like they make dock, and then they all turn their chairs. They're all on swivel chairs. They all turn their chairs and leave like normally, but he's got this like chair that's suspended in midair. And he presses the button and it turns around in the slowest manner ever. And like literally, it's no benefit to him to actually even turn the chair. He could have just literally climbed down and walked away. And by the time his chair is so slow, by the time he fully rotates, everyone else is gone.
The first time we see him, he's got 3 people in a small room with him being the fourth.
Yeah,
and he wants to know, like, you know, like, engineer guy, how's my ship looking? Pilot guy, how's but he actually turns this like chair towards everybody. And I would just be sitting there going, you on my left, you in front of me.
Just lean. Just like all he has to do is do a good old fashioned Captain Kirk lean. You know what I mean? Lean on your elbow. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
that's it. That's what I'd be doing.
That's how Captain Kirk did it. He's like, if he wanted to talk to Sulu, he was leaning towards Sulu. Chekhov, he was on to Chekhov. That's how you manage a captain's chair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how it's done, people.
Captain's chair. You make them come to you. But then they cross over the umbilicus. Yeah, that's right. I was paying attention. And they get on the ship. And I like straight away the young... The cannon fodder, like he might as well have been wearing a red ensign's uniform.
He's like the guy that goes on the mission in the new Star Trek with Captain Kirk and Mr. Sulu when they're going down to the world drilling machine. And he's like, you know, all dressed in red. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to get him. I'm going to kill some Klingons. Yeah. And he's like, open your chute. Open your chute. That's what this guy's like, you know what I mean? He's just like, like literally, as you said, everyone splits up and they go investigate in different parts of the Event Horizon. So this guy, Justin, who finds himself down in this, like, I think they call it the quantum drive or some bullshit. And he's down, or the quantum core, whatever, like something that looks super radioactive. That
it was
never
the
seems
engine. They've already explained that the idea was that they created an engine that could make the distance between 2 points 0.
Yeah.
Like folding space and instantaneously bringing them to the Andromeda system.
Yeah, FTL.
Yeah.
FTL, faster than light travel.
Faster than light travel. So this is why, like, the ship is obviously top secret, code black or something. You know, he referred
to it. Code black.
Yeah, and so obviously he gets to see the big again. Like, I'm sure that it's just unnecessarily scary. You know what I mean?
It's like, just in case we meet aliens, we want to scare the shit out of them. You know what I mean? Like,
but he sees this black gloop and it sucks him in, really, doesn't it? To be fair,
he walks over and starts touching it.
Yes, he does.
He's like, oh, I mean, well, it's pretty much the equivalent of a nuclear engine, like a nuclear core. I'm just going to walk over and start touching stuff.
Yeah. And everyone's missing. Like, everyone's missing because something's clearly gone terribly wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go over and look at this stuff.
And is this where he starts, like, because this is where they kind of start jumping around to what everyone's up to. And there is a part where you're on Mama Bear, I think. She comes across as like a frozen floating body because like when they're investigating it, because and he's like, actually even before that there's a really cool jump scare when Lawrence Fishburne is walking onto the bridge, I think, of Event Horizon, where a hand touches him on the shoulder
and it's just a floating hand.
Yeah. I mean,
they had magnetic boots. They hadn't like turned on the gravity.
No, they were actually, I think they were floating at this stage, weren't they? Were they just floating around?
No, I think they had because I think I remember
they had
magnetic boots, yeah. But this is the first, like, a Cooper guy who's, I'm not sure exactly what his job was, but he was cool. He runs in and saves our friend, our little ensign. It was a shockwave that kind of like fucked everyone up a little bit. And then you have straight away, like if you were watching this for the first time, this is where you find out that the Doctor's going to be that crazy guy who just like, it's impossible. I'm telling you, it's impossible.
Yeah.
And he's telling them like, oh, I went in there to save him. There was all this black liquid shit. And he's going, no, that's impossible because that could only be if the engine was on. And I remember thinking to myself, how would that guy know there's supposed to be black liquid shit?
Yeah.
This guy should know nothing about it.
It's because he
That
built
guy
it,
said-
Noel.
Yeah. No, the black guy that went in and saved the ensign.
Yeah, Cooper.
Yeah,
I think
Cooper.
Richard T. Jones, I think, led him.
Richard T. Jones, yeah.
Yeah, Richard T. Jones, yeah.
God, he was young there.
And,
And yeah, the Doctor's doing the whole, that's impossible, the engine would have to be activated. And I would just be like, at this point, someone needs to bitch slap him and go, everyone here is dead.
I
Everyone.
love though how quickly the Lewis and Clark starts to fall apart because, like, I think is it the guy Justin? He's attached to either the Lewis and Clark or some part of the Event Horizon. He's on like a reel, like the guy. It happens to the guy in Stranger Things where he goes into the Upside Down and he gets pulled into this black goo on the reel, and it's like a little bit gets ripped out. I'm pretty sure it's part of the Lewis and Clark. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I think a little bit gets ripped out, and then you got the energy burst. And then, like after for the rest of the movie, the Lewis and Clark is just falling apart. Like that ship just falls apart consistently.
That ship was But that was like, I mean, the hopelessness in this film. We said it. It comes at you from about 5 angles. You get onto the ship, the Lewis and Clark ship, the ship that got them there gets damaged.
Great name too.
Yeah, so they can't just fuck off.
Yeah.
Secondly, they're stuck on the ship for the time being. But the
20 hours.
20 hours. But the CO2 engines are shot. So they're literally only breathing the ambient air. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
it's
all
because
they've got.
in space, there's things they use called CO2 scrubbers, which scrubs the carbon dioxide out of the air and helps recycle clean oxygen into the air or whatever. Because they allude to it later because they start collecting them before they try to flee and shit, not to jump too far ahead.
But it was cool. You kind of knew, like, wow, like the actual scientific dangers.
Yeah,
of just being in space.
Yeah,
and
just being there,
failing.
just existing there at that moment.
It's just existing there.
Yeah.
So a clock, a little timer is set.
Yeah.
For the whole thing to unplay, and then
So pretty much you have 20 hours to fix the Lewis and Clark before all the oxygen runs out on the Event Horizon. That's the ticking time clock.
And then instantly everyone starts hearing like voices and stuff like that. Like, it does not mess around, this film.
Yeah, because as soon as Justin gets dragged into the black goo and there's like an EMP sent out from the quantum drive or whatever it's called, this is where the movie goes from subtlety to scary. You know what I mean? Like, because like it's always hinting and alluding. And like just to jump back a little bit, we see the opening scene, Sam Neill's character. Before he goes or wakes from stasis. It's strange that Jason Isaacs calls it stasis in this. I've never heard it pronounced that way. So I'm using stasis. But there's a form, like when he before he wakes from stasis earlier, he has a nightmare and he sees this woman that's floating around in 0G or something. She has no eyes. And then it gets into the movie,
Okay, the first time we see Sam O'Neill, by the way, he wakes up and he's had a dream about Claire, the love of his life.
Yeah.
And he's got 3 pictures of Claire on his wall, like Polaroid photos. And he takes one off and he goes, Claire. He puts the picture over the other side of the room where he's got like a Claire shrine.
Yeah.
Like 60 pictures of her. And I was just like, I mean.
Do you think he's using the same adhesive as your man from Happiness? He used to stick his postcards to the wall with his man love.
Oh,
if anyone's ever seen that movie, does not live up to his name. Super depressing.
But I kind of like this. I kind of got that whole Predator vibe where you're like then you. I'm thinking you might live.
Yeah.
And you probably sacrifice yourself in some sort of heroic fashion. You're doing the whole death clock on people, like. Yeah,
that's a good horror though, because you never, like in the bad horrors, you're like, oh, you die, and we know exactly where it's a good horror. You're like, maybe you go first, maybe you survive or maybe you're the person that survives that's unexpectedly survives. That kind of way. Like that's what Event Horizon does because.
Sorry,
ahead.
I'm talking.
No,
over,
no,
but
go
it's
ahead.
not
No, no, go
spoon
ahead.
feed you either. I watched spoiler alert if anyone hasn't seen. I think season 3 of Slasher, which was on Netflix.
Yeah.
And at the start of it, me and my partner we were watching it, and she said, "That dude's imaginary." I said, "Which dude?" She said, "You want? She's her brother. He's imaginary. No one else is interacting with him." I was like, "Oh yeah, so she's the killer." It's like, "Yeah, she's the killer." And that was it. And that was like episode literally 1.
Yeah.
And we were just like, "Oh, so that's it." So now we're just like, "All right, so everyone's going to die except their Scream Queen, and that's it." And that is exactly how it played out. Event Horizon had so many possibilities for death.
Yeah, because a lot of the actors are at similar stages of their career, like Sean Pertwee, Jason Isaacs. It's very hard, like even a Richard T. Jones.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you didn't have a Brad Pitt on board,
yeah,
or a young Leonardo DiCaprio, or just these actors that were blowing up the world in 1997.
yeah, exactly. Like even Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill, but Sam Neill I suppose was on the back of like Jurassic Park and stuff.
Yeah,
The biggest star, but
oh yeah, but he was clearly so early on. He was clearly the guy it was literally his baby. Like he invented the engine.
Yeah.
So this was literally his baby. So you knew it was never going to be him.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he wasn't going to be the good guy ultimately. Like that was the one thing it did spoon feed you. But that's just common sense.
Yeah, because it's, as we've touched on a few times, it's a well-worn trope. The scientist who falls in love with his own hubris and his own technology, and it leads to his demise.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Or the ends justifying the means.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, there's always like, begin human experimentation. But I said, all
injected into its eye.
Injected unnecessarily cruelly.
So at this stage now, that Justin's been dragged into the Black Goo. He was saved by Richard T. Jones, who you call it, Cooper. So Cooper drags him out. He has the kind of like spat or whatever with Sam Neill's character. What's his name? Doctor Weir.
Weir, yeah.
And so like this is where we start seeing, as you said, the ticking time clock, because the Lewis and Clark is damaged not beyond repair, but it's going to take some time to repair. And they have 20 hours of oxygen left on the Event Horizon, and shit starts going downhill from here pretty much, because they're now, for all intents and purposes, locked on the Event Horizon for nearly a whole day, and you know what I mean. And this is where it's literally like it's like Dog Soldiers in a way. Let's see if you can survive to see the morning, kind of thing,
Because when the tapes and stuff start becoming clear, like there's a guy saying in Latin, "Save yourselves."
Because they go across it first. Remember, Jason Isaacs hears it's more broken, and it says "Liberté me" or something like that.
Save me.
Like save me.
But then he said, "Look, I think I was wrong. It was Liberté vertume or something like that." And that
means me or something. Yeah.
That means save yourself. So he just knows he says it a little bit later in the film. He went, "Fuck this shit," So.
As we talked about before we came on here, is there a scarier language than Latin? Like maybe Aramaic. Do you know when they throw in the Aramaic? I love those Exorcist movies. They're like, what's that recording? It's like, it can't be true. It's ancient Aramaic. There's like a 16-year-old girl from Nebraska saying it or something. And
I always like to think that there's some like Iraqi film or something out there where there's some like ulchi Irish lad like us. And it's just the tapes go on and goes, Jesus, lads. There's demons everywhere. They're going, what is it? He goes, I don't recognize the dialect, but I think it's English.
A primitive form of English.
yeah. But it is. I even sent you like the translation of "I am very stupid" in Latin. Yeah. It's like ego vest, and it just sounds cool.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a cool language. There's no
way around it's a very like obviously it's an old language, but it just hits the ear differently.
Exactly.
There's something about it,
and we take so much from it.
But all the romantic languages are based on it pretty much, aren't they? Like Spanish, Italian, French, and all this shit. But
the female, the number one,
Jodie Richardson,
yeah, her character figures out straight away that ship crossed through space and time, but it brought something back with it.
Yeah, Lieutenant Stark.
She said this ship brought something back with it. There was something wrong here, and you think like there's going to be a lot of denial because that's what you should do. Because that's what you do. You don't believe it until you're face to face with it. But to be fair to this film, it injected enough paranoia into everyone, including the captain, because it remembered that he left a man to die.
Yeah, it gave everyone enough.
That.
Yeah, give everyone enough skeletons in their closet that
exactly.
the demonic creatures can actually use them as weapons against them, playing mind games and shit.
Exactly. So it's not anyone playing mind games with me, at least like of my crew or external of me, because nobody knew that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just playing on your own insecurities, your own fears.
Exactly. So he just knows, wait, like, okay, the tapes show that the last crew were like torturing themselves, like it was orgies and
no,
murder.
that comes later.
It comes a little bit later.
Yeah,
they had the screaming tapes then.
Yeah, because they had the last. I can remember this. It's like, this is the last transmission we had from the Event Horizon. Pure chill. And he presses play. He's like, and it's like your man's like, "Et tu me," and then I would be like, "All right, lads, I'm going home." Yeah. I'd be like, you can send me to the break or court-martial me when I get home.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm going home, okay? Because, like, if that's the last transmission...
When I get home, you can court-martial me when I'm home.
Yeah.
Or you can fire me when I'm home.
Yeah,
I'm not
either
away from the rest of my life when I'm home. And what all three of those sentences have I come?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's like if that's the last transmission of this ship that you've ventured into deep space with this advanced technology, it hasn't been heard of in 7 years, you get this mysterious transmission, and it contains that. I'm like, all right, lads, time to back this ship around. You know what I mean? It's kind of like your man in Braveheart. He's like, all right, lads, time to go home. You know what I mean? It's like,
but there was at least a natural reaction. It wasn't these people going, "Oh, we need to persevere," or "We have our orders." You had the obsessed scientists, of course, but everyone else was just like, "Fuck this place."
Yeah,
we're getting the fuck out of there. But then our little friend wakes up and decides he wants to go. And Justin wants to like spend some time outside. He's the young lad. He wants to play outside, and kids don't do it enough today.
Yeah.
So he gets into the airlock and he starts talking about the darkness.
Yeah.
Which I thought was cool. I loved that scene. That scene completely held up. I don't know if I've watched Event Horizon in the 24 years since it came out, to 23 years. Not start to finish anyway. I think it's probably been on TV and stuff. But I remember that scene from the cinema. That was my favourite scene. And it was this time too. Because obviously, like, the insanity or the drive or the voices in his head put him in the airlock. But then when the airlock starts to activate and his veins are literally start to like be torn from his body, he's kind of coming through and he's trying to get out and he's scared and stuff. But Lawrence Fishburne, who was out doing what they call it, a skywalk or spacewalk.
Spacewalk, yeah.
He just says, "Breathe out, close your eyes, breathe out." Because the thing is,
I loved Lawrence Fishburne's his journey to try to save Justin. And do you remember the clock's ticking down and he's pushing himself alongside the structure of the Event Horizon. He's pulling himself along. It's like 4, 5, 4, and he's like giving him all these instructions. And he's like, "I'm scared, Captain, I'm scared." He's like, "Justin!" And he's barely moving. He's barely moving through. I'm like, "You're going to be screaming Justin for a while." You know what I mean?
Captain, 2 minutes ago, we need to reserve oxygen. Also,
and so so the countdown and Justin comes through. Comes to, and in right as the countdown happens, he's like, the captain's on the outside. He's like, "Breathe out," as you were saying, and get ball up in the fetal position, whatever. And Justin's inside the airlock, and his eyes are bleeding. That seems. He's like, "Breathe in and out, Justin." He's like, "I don't have any eyes, guy." You know what I mean? Give me a second to compose myself.
The captain kicks off, grabs Justin, pushes him back into the airlock, and like ostensibly saves. He's a little worse for wear from being in deep space.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of like similar to another scene in Sunshine, where Cillian Murphy has to push himself. I can't remember the other actor, but him, Chris Evans, and another character through space, and they're just wrapped up in like tinfoil.
That was an awesome scene.
Oh, incredible!
Awesome scene. I haven't thought about that. Yeah.
We should definitely do a podcast on that because one thing I loved about that was the in-suit camera shots. But it made, because the suit's all like, supposed to be made completely of gold. It always looks so heavy. When you have like the shots of Cillian Murphy and he's like, and he's like, he's running out of oxygen, and every movement seems really like heavy, exertive, like, you know what I mean? I love the way they portrayed that in at the mid-space.
And it was a huge, I mean, Event Horizon did break ground. I really do think it did. At least for me, I'm not like
definitely one of Paul W.S. Anderson's better movies for sure.
Oh my god, yeah. He put a bit of love into it though. Like, he was actually trying to scare people.
Yeah, I think eventually he just started putting his wife in his movies instead of creativity.
Yeah.
Leave that there. I'll just leave that there.
Controversial. But yeah, I thought at this point, yes, who's next? It's in it now. It's in it to win it.
Yeah.
The ship is not lying. Everybody knows that they're standing inside. I think one of the Smithy or something, the navigation officer,
Sean Pertwee.
He said, I'd rather be out there, like literally out welding the Lewis and Clark ship together than being in this fucking shit can.
Oh, you would though, wouldn't you?
You would.
At that stage, yeah, because at least you can focus your mind on the task at hand.
Focus your mind on it, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and like at this stage, it's like, so as you touched on, Smitty's been sent to repair the Lewis and Clark. Justin is like pretty much in stasis or stasis, as Jason Isaac says.
Yeah.
And then we see Mama Bear. She's in like, I'm not sure if this happens before or after, but we should touch upon it. Your mom, Mama Bear, who has a kid at home, and obviously she has these issues that she feels like she's abandoning her kid by going into deep space and stuff. And she sees there's all these like incubation pods set up. One of them seems to be covered in like a tent of some sort, and she sees like a hand in it, which was a really cool scene, really cool visual. And she sees like a hand in it, and it's like a person moving around and shit. And she walks towards it and slowly unzips it, and you're like, is this a survivor? What the fuck? And she sees this kid, and obviously to us, we're like, what the fuck is maybe this a survivor? But then she realizes obviously it's her son. She looks at his legs, and he's covered in burns or like cancerous looking things, like lesions nearly, for lack of a better word. And like this is or another instance where the ship, as you touched on, plays on the fears of the characters. Like it touched on, she has these issues that she feels like she's abandoning her family, and she had to cancel Christmas with her kids. She touches on earlier on in the movie, and she gets it for the summer or some shit, because like this is showing just like the fears and how the ship is starting to slowly peel away the mental fragilities of the characters throughout the movies. Like as you touched on, Lawrence Fishburne has this visions of a guy burning, like I think he sees the guy burning down in the quantum core. I think it is I think that's what they call it. Like the water at the base of it that's now being liquefied when they turn the gravity back on, and slowly but surely that bursts the flames or something, and a guy starts to emerge from it, and like this, and then bit by bit, like we see that the ship is starting to play mind games with him, or whatever forces are contained within the ship are starting to, like, you know, attack mentally before it ever attacks physically.
And the thing about this is that Sam Neill was so Dr. Weir was so ready to surrender to it that he had so much, like, it's
like it was calling out to him.
Exactly. And his fear, which it showed him, he literally sat down with. He didn't run from it. He literally sat down with it. And that was his Claire back home taking her own life. And that was because, you know, for amongst other reasons, was that he wasn't there when she needed him because he was so obsessed with his work. So I think he was just like already ready to break.
Was Claire on the Event Horizon?
No, I don't believe so. I believe that's what she did when he was basically.
Oh no,
project.
No, she. I remember. Yeah, no, I didn't want to give it away because we'll touch on it later, but I remember what you're talking about there. What happens with Claire? So what did you think of the design of the quantum core room? Those spikes all around the walls a little bit unnecessary?
Spikes all around the wall. three circular magnetic shields, apparently, that kind of like go around like a gyro, and they've got spotlights on them because that's
it looks like a place that's just oozing with radioactiveness. Like, you know,
I love, like, when they first go in there, Dr. Weir says, "Captain, it's perfectly safe." And I'm like, everyone's dead. Everyone's dead.
I love though about that part where Jodie Richardson lets Lawrence Fishburne walk over first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's like, she's like, Captain's good. I'll follow him. You know what I mean?
And but I think this is where you just find that the ship doesn't wait to drive everyone crazy and make everyone do what it wants, because you only need one.
Yeah.
You really do only need one. And you only need like a pretty small amount of sabotage when everything's kind of gone to shite already to kind of like ensure that death, destruction, whatever the hell it is that the ship actually wants.
There's a really cool scene coming up as well. Do you remember when the ship starts malfunction or something, and Dr. Weir goes to investigate? And him and Lawrence Fishburne go down into the quantum core, or whatever it's called, and they open up like a panel in the wall, and they crawl into this room that looks like it's straight out of the Cube. It's like a vent, but it's all lit in like a luminous green, and it's going. And as he's going through, there's like power surges, and it's like it's really bright and it's really dark. He finds the panel, he starts working on it, and then the power surges start happening, and then he starts seeing, like, you know, Claire in the vent and shit, and he's like got nowhere to go because he's in the vent, and it's just like, you know, it starts getting darker and darker and darker. I hate scenes in vents. They're so fucking claustrophobic.
Yeah.
It's like The Descent, you know, when they go through some of the crevices and stuff.
Oh God, yeah. Descent is an excellent example.
Oh man, that movie, fucking hell, I hate watching it. But
well, it's great when you have claustrophobia in space. You know what I mean? Like,
it's just the ultimate form of claustrophobia, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Even outside feels claustrophobic because you're going to be inside a spacesuit at the very least.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. There's no way around it. Like, there's no atmosphere. There's things you take for granted. It's excellently poised to just show that you've only got hours to go. You could literally go insane before anything actually else happens. And Dr. Weir obviously had darker demons in his closet than maybe anybody else. And it definitely, I think, started to focus on him.
Yeah, he was like the Red Skull. You know what I mean? It was like the dark was his serum, and it just amplified the worst parts of his nature, you know?
That was exactly what it was like.
And
trying to think, it gets to around this point that we see that the video clears up. They see that, like, everyone was basically...
Yeah, I think Jason Isaacs or Mama Bear was working on the video in the meantime. I think it was Jason Isaacs who said he was going to try to clear it up or something. And nowadays, instead of just an audio with a distorted video, they have the true nature of the events of Event Horizon. Noel, what did you make of this scene?
My God, I mean...
Holy shit.
I mean, when there's, like, murder and sodomy and, you know, orgy...
One guy was eating his own arm, I think.
One guy was eating his own arm, and I think they might have been having sex as well.
That's how you do it. That's real fisting.
That's how you do it, yeah. And he was standing there, and he's holding his own eyes. The captain.
Oh, that was the captain. Captain Kilpack.
Kilpack, awesome name. And he was holding his own eyes, and that's when you knew that this ship is doomed. As in, no good comes from this. Get the fuck out of here right now.
The best scene of the whole movie, in my opinion, I know you love the Justin scene, but is the recording. I love those scenes where you find that information that shows you how doomed you are.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, I love that. Like, you know, it's like, and the fact your man's like looks at the camera and he says that at was it Liberté at 2 a.m. or something? There's some person that's fluting that, and it's like, these guys are fucking idiots. But like, you know, and he's got his eyes and shit. Like, but yeah, and like when you see that, and you know that wherever they went, because something we didn't really touch on was this ship using the quantum drive or quantum core, or whatever, creates like a black hole within space.
Yeah.
And that's how it travels through space-time, which Sam Neill says a lot in this movie. Yeah. He says the term space-time a lot.
Or
like,
sometimes he says
hard.
Space and time.
Yeah, he's like, but he was like, if I do this right, I'm definitely going to be the next captain of the Enterprise.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. But where are we? We're there, and we've got the tapes, but that's when they realize nobody has any illusions anymore. Everyone just decides, get my ship ready and get me the fuck off this thing.
Yeah,
because the captain's like, you get Justin ready. You do this. We're getting out of here.
It's kind of one of the strengths of the movie, though, isn't it? Because they're very quick to understand and go, okay, we don't believe that this could be real, But at the end of the day, we're all seeing these illusions, these hallucinations. So something the fuck's going on here. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's what I think I liked about Lawrence Fishburne's Captain Miller. There was no, like, as you said earlier, like, there was no, like, oh, let's rescue this, whatever. Just like, no, let's just go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's kind of like that, as the Chris Rock joke about the difference between, like, a white family moving into a haunted house and a black family. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's like, get out. Oh, baby, we're going. You know what I mean? Like, that's the difference. Like, Lawrence Fisher is like, you know what I mean? He's like, I'm using my knowledge of the streets. I know when shit's about to go down. I'm getting the fuck out of here immediately.
He just everybody gets to pack up their shit and go.
Yeah.
And that is, it looks like you're kind of at this point, you're thinking, Sam Neill's going to do some shit now. Because obviously that's not how the film ends.
Yeah.
It's not like, and then they all got back on the ship. Everyone was fine.
And they lived happily ever after.
That's it, exactly. Yeah.
This is where Lawrence Fishburne starts coming up with his idea that he said, we're going to repair the Lewis and Clark, and then we're going to rig, because pretty much your man said you can't return without the event arising. And he goes, oh, I'm not going to do that. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to board Lewis and Clark, I'm going to rig this yoke for explosion, I'm going to get far enough away, and then I'm going to blow it to smithereens without
I think actually he said missiles from the ship.
Oh,
effectively, yeah, effectively.
Because they do later rig it with explosives, don't they? Like,
they do.
The bridge.
But they actually said earlier on that the bridge could be separated from the engine because, you know, it's a failsafe.
Yeah.
But
makes sense.
But this is when Sam Neill just goes like, he goes, "Come on, Doctor, we're going home." And Sam Neill goes, Dr. Weir goes, "I'm already home," and he steps back into the shadows.
I'd be like, okay, I'm leaving him here.
That's exactly what I do. Like, you know, let the record record. Bitch went mad, and then of course, this is the thing that the mama bear. She obviously was a little bit further gone than we realized, because when everyone's running, getting to the ship, she sees her son like run by the engine room, and she follows him.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so strange, because at this point they're all absolutely know that this ship is not to be trusted. Your son is 8 billion miles away.
Yeah. Like,
you know what I mean?
Like, the other side of our solar system, like
the other side of our solar system. And he's not there. Just get the fuck out. And she follows, and I thought it was, because I think of all the ways people can die, it's like their own paranoia getting them is always an interesting one.
The ship is very seductive, though, and how it plays with your fears as well.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, because it lures you in, like, and it's like that, like, even though she knows it's not real, just her motherly instincts, that's what it's playing on.
In a big way, her motherly instincts.
It's like a 1 in a trillion chance if you're a parent, if your kid's there, that 1 in a trillion chance you're going to scope it out just in case.
You just have to.
Yeah,
she climbs the ladders, he does this and the other, and then her son kind of opens his arm to embrace her, and she runs, and she just falls. Yeah. And it is a brutal landing.
Yeah, she like literally is a blood bag in this moment when she hits the ground.
God, yeah, she hits a couple of this and that on the way down, but then when she hits the ground, she hits a grate, and she just explodes with blood.
Yeah, is it?
And then just for gratuity nature of the film, she just has one last gulp, you know, like one last, like, I'm suffering a little bit, you know, before she shuffles off the mortal coil. And she's the first confirmed kill. Yeah,
because Justin's in stasis.
Yes, Justin's in stasis. And the thing is, like, and I kind of realised that watching it, I was going, she's the first kill. I know, like, the crew, their dead bodies and all that, like, a lot of badness has happened. But when I realised that, I was like, yeah, this film is coasted by quite well on just the darkness.
Yeah, he showed us a more restrained hand here than he has in his following movies, Paul W.S. Anderson. Where he held back on the information. It was clever. He had, like, the doctor spoon-fed them enough information to get them there to agree to it. And then by the time the doctor was clever enough to reveal, even when he was revealing information, he's still hiding stuff from them. And I like that about this movie, that, you know what I mean, he's constantly spoon-feeds them enough, and this keeps the narrative moving along nicely, and it keeps people alive. You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, here's enough information to keep you alive for now. Enough information to keep you alive for now. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, the doctor goes off the deep end. There's nobody else feeding them information, and now they're there to be killed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's it. At this point, it's they're being hunted and they're being murdered. Because
by
in
the
the
ship.
film, they had literally no murders per se. They had they had the whole airlock scene, but this is where there's the navigator is on the ship, and how did Captain Miller figure out that your man would sabotage the ship? Because he gives him a heads up. I remember that.
He figures out because he sees that one of the explosives are missing from the umbilicus or whatever that thing's called. That
That's
joins.
the one.
Yeah, because what happens is they show a shot of Smitty. He's back, and Richard T. Jones, Cooper is on the outside. It's got like this like massive foam that they filled in the hallway, and he's drilling like shoving massive bolts into it. And he's like, "Are you just about ready? I want to get the fuck out of here. This place scares the shit out of me or whatever." And Cooper's like, "Yeah, I'm ready." And then he's about to come back in, and then Smitty's getting everything ready, and then Lawrence Fishburne's on the thing. He's like on a monitor talking to him, and then he was like, "Let me check out something for a second." And he walks over, sees one of the explosives they've set to blow the umbilicus is missing, and in the meantime, Smitty just saw Dr. Weir leave.
That's it.
Leave the Lewis and Clark. But before this, we seen Dr. Weir, who kind of gets locked in this trance where he sees his wife in a bath. She's committed suicide. She slit her wrist, and I think he starts scratching at his own eyes, and it's like
the vision
she's
starts
scratching
clawing
at
his eyes out.
Yeah,
But then it shows that he's kind of doing it to himself, which is like succumbing to the vision, essentially.
Which is a kind of a callback to, I'm not sure if we touched on it, but the crew from the Event Horizon were missing eyes. There was a body that they seen, and one guy said, "Oh, maybe it was decompression," and I think Jason Isaacs said, "Look at the eyes, look at the damage to the soft tissue. It looks like somebody clawed at it."
Decompression doesn't do that.
Yeah,
decompression doesn't do that. Looks like.
Yeah, like an animal attack. And so
but Smitty kind of goes like, there's a bomb on board. And he goes, so for some reason he goes, you know what, before I get off, I'd like to see this bomb.
But I know, because he was like, "Oh, God damn it, Captain, I just put her back together." Even though Cooper's on the outside doing it. Like, did we do that, Smitty? You know what I mean? Cooper. So like, so now we see like Cooper's still out in space. Smitty's searching for the bomb. Dr. Weir's left the Lewis and Clark. He's gone back to Event Horizon. On board the Event Horizon, Justin's in stasis, and Captain Miller's still there. Jodie Richardson, Lieutenant Stark is still there. Mama Bear is now dead, and Jason Isaacs' character is still alive. So there are all the people on our Event Horizon, and this is where we're going to kind of lead into the big, climax and the run into the end of the movie for the second half.
It does run.
Yeah,
it does run.
Yeah, because there's a ticking time clock from the minute they dock with the Event Horizon, so it's clever.
Yeah,
it speeds everything along.
They're down to like an hour or two or something.
Yeah,
3D during night time.
Yeah, so and we see before this as well that before Mama Bear dies, her and Smitty took like 25 of the CO2 scrubbers from the Event Horizon because they moved them to Lewis and Clark. So when Smitty looks for this bomb, Lawrence Fishburne's telling him to get out of there. He's trying to find the bomb because he's trying to save the ship. I have no idea where he's going to put it. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe he's going to disarm it. But I love Sean Pertwee's expression when he finds the bomb and he realizes 3 or 4 seconds left. He just quivers. There's no oh shit. There's none of that. He's just like
he just drops his head.
Yeah, it's just like it's really good acting. He's a really, really good actor. I really like him. So
that's it. It's never like
no overacting. Yeah, exactly. Because that's not what we do. You just be like you literally. We probably obviously we would never know, but I'm sure there's no words. Would that describe the fear, the instant fear that you're about to die in 3 seconds? You know what I mean? Like
millions of miles from home.
Yeah, like the scares the shit out of you thinking you're like, I could have 30 years left. Thinking I've got 3 seconds left. In an instant, you just find this news out. You have to you have to compute all that information while computing that a bomb's about to explode in front of you. And then the only thing that would come out would be just sheer terror. And I think he portrayed that or conveyed that really, really well. And so he gets killed here. The Lewis and Clark gets destroyed. Cooper, who's on the remnants of like a piece, like for lack of a better term, like a piece of shrapnel from the Lewis and Clark, he gets blown into space. Lewis and Clark is decimated, and pretty much everyone that's left is now on the Event Horizon, and it's all about pretty much see if you can survive until we get this umbilicus separated from the deck or the bridge, so we can get the fuck out of Dodge. And now we see Cooper drift into space, and they come back to him again. Actually, no, maybe they stay with him for a minute. he decides that he's going to release his air valve, like doing Iron Man, as Matt Damon calls it in The Martian. And he's like, I'm going to go with Iron Man. Do you remember that? He's like, don't do it. No, I'm going to go Iron Man. And it's like, and so he kind of does that. He decides to vent his air, use it like a jetpack of sorts.
Propulsion,
to propel him from the bit of the ship that blasted away to the event horizon. I love this scene where he's like, he blasts off. He's flying clearly to nothing. Like, I don't know where the event horizon is supposed to be. Is it in Neptune, or I thought it was like outside Neptune? I'm not sure.
I think it's in Neptune.
The atmosphere or something,
or
is it?
the upper orbit or something like that.
Yeah, because like he's flying directly towards the plane. He's like, I'm coming at you, motherfuckers!
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, dude, you're venting all your oxygen, now shout. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm never gonna reach you, motherfuckers! You know what I mean?
So roll call.
Yeah.
We have Isaac. The doctor is Weir is alive.
Yeah.
The XO, the first commanding officer, is, we don't know to be dead, and she doesn't turn out to be dead. Captain Miller is alive.
Yeah.
And Cooper is just an absolute boss out in space, and he's
he's
not
Iron
done yet. Yeah, he's Iron Manning.
Yeah, so what's left is Lieutenant Stark, Captain Miller, Dr. Weir, and you have, what's his face, DJ, Jason Isaacs. And this is where Lawrence Fishburne gets on the phone, or on the intercom or something, to Jason Isaacs, who's in the belly of the beast in the med bay, I think, because he's the one that's been looking after Justin. And he's in the med bay, and he pretty much, we've seen earlier on, he stuck a scalpel to, I think it was Cooper's neck when he was losing his cool with Dr. Weir. Actually, yeah, I think it was either Cooper or Smitty, one of them were losing their cool, and DJ stuck a scalpel to his neck. So he obviously shows that he has, obviously a darker side to him as well. And I love how confident he is here when Lawrence Fishburne, Captain Miller, tells him, he's like, Dr. Weir's on board, he's obviously, insane or whatever. And he's like, don't you worry, I'll take care of him. And he's like going through his instruments, and like Dr. Weir's like behind him straight. You know what I mean? Like turns around, he's just like, yeah, and he gets bitch slapped here. Like, bitch slapped. Like he had a high expectations of his combat abilities that were definitely unfounded.
Now, to turn my back to the only entrance to this room and to get all my instruments ready.
Yeah, it's just like, what I do is I'll get changed into my formal murder gear. You know what I mean? Like,
Dr. Weir's about to bear witness to the fitness.
And he's like, he's stripping seductively. Like, he's like greasing himself up like Tom Hardy and Bronson. Do you ever see that movie? Come on, you cunts! Come on! Fucking hell, he's a lunatic. But what you call it? So now Jason Isaacs, DJ, he gets killed here, and the numbers are really whittling down slowly but surely. A little side note that I wanted to mention before I forgot. One thing I loved about, the insignia on Dr. Weir's uniform?
Yeah.
It's got the Australian flag, but in the top corner, instead of the Union Jack, it's actually got the Aboriginal flag. I thought that was cool. Yeah, I thought that was cool, because maybe they're saying that, like, Australia in this future has had its independence, seceded from Britain or whatever, and incorporated the Aboriginal flag into theirs. The only reason I said it is because it popped in my head, and I was full sure I was going to forget before the end of the podcast. So a bit of nerd trivia for y'all. You know what I'm saying? If you're
I like they're the little
like flags
before we had the word Easter egg, I think.
Yeah, I'm like Sheldon. It's like, do you like flags?
Fun with flags.
Yeah.
But the DJ got killed here.
Yeah, he gets fucked up at least, because he gets thrown around the med bay. I'm not 100% sure if he dies here, but
that's what I'm trying to think. Yeah,
he gets thrown around the med bay because literally there's only Dr. Weir, DJ, Cooper in space, and it's the Captain Miller and Lieutenant Stark are the only ones left now. So Jolie Richardson, Lawrence Fishburne, Jason Isaacs, Richard T. Jones, and Sam Neill, they're the only ones left alive at this stage. And I'm not sure if Jason Isaacs survives this part, because I know he gets the shit kicked out of him in the med bay anyway, and Lawrence Fishburne, I think, then goes after Dr. Weir, or does he try to find her one first?
No, he finds Stark. He finds her. She's unconscious, but she's fine. And like all unconscious people in movies, if you tap them on the shoulder, they'll wake up.
It's like, so.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I just seem to have been deeply unconscious just there.
Yeah.
But,
like, as a person
she's
that's being
fine.
concussed, that's not something you
Yeah,
shut off
yeah.
quickly, people. You know what I
And
mean?
they're on the bridge, and then like, they're like, oh, you know, we have to Dr. Weir this, blah, blah, blah. And then Dr. Weir turns around in the unnecessary chair that all the ships apparently have, and that's the revolving.
Beep. I'll be with you in 5 moments. Beep.
Yeah. Oh, there's a big reveal. I'm not telling you who I am. And he kind of gives the whole, you know, he's obviously gone full on Sith Lord.
Yeah.
He's like, you know,
Unlimited power.
Yeah, something Event Horizon.
But
he belongs to the ship now.
yeah, he's given into it. Like the rest of them are fighting against him. He gave into it from get go. What like whatever happened to him in Jurassic Park just stayed with him so much that like you know what I mean. And more like he was just like I'm giving into this. So giving into the dinosaurs. I regretted it. And the dinosaurs could have been our overlords. You know what I mean? But like he just like gives into it. He's like. I love this though, the marks on his face, and they're just like it's like oh, what happened to you? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, this guy's clearly unstable. Anything he does should not be unexpected at this stage. You know
where we're going, we won't need eyes to see. Yeah. And this is like this all happens quite quick because
that's a cool
James. They try and attack him. It doesn't work. He throws Stark away by her throat, and he points to this kind of railgun type thing that they had. Which is quite futuristic looking.
Actually, Lawrence Fishburne gets that first, doesn't he?
Yeah. And I don't know how it ends up. I don't know how it ends up with Weir so easily, but
he's literally brought the gun to him.
But he goes, if you shoot me, you'll cause decompression, and you know, he goes, well, what makes you think? Yeah, what makes you think I'll miss? Enter Cooper, who comes in screaming. Now, what I don't understand is the comms were either on or they weren't.
Yeah.
It's not like you could hear him.
Yeah, I thought that too. I was like, how the fuck can they hear him through that?
The glass dense enough to
withstand space.
While in a spacesuit.
Yeah, it's like, how shoddy is the Event Horizon made? You know what I mean?
Man takes a shot, and of course it hits the glass, and boom. And this looks like it spells the end of Dr. Weir because Cooper manages to get in. And Stark managed to get dragged to freedom, dragged through the door by Miller. So they, for the moment, they're safe.
Yeah.
And
he makes a very poor attempt to save her, though, doesn't he?
Yeah. He's.
I love that. Yeah.
Leave my hand here a little longer.
I love it. He's like, I think, like, you know, I should stay where I could probably save myself if she doesn't make it. You know what I mean? He's like, if you can reach me, I will save you. But if you can't, I will save myself. You know what I mean?
And then, you know, like, we're not done here. We have to blow up the engine because that's the way it always is. You know, we have to stop this thing once and for all. He decides to go it alone. Cooper comes in through one of the airlocks. Don't hit me. I thought it was really funny. They're all like, he just comes in and goes, don't hit me. But he goes to the engine room and Weir's not dead. The ship brought him back.
Yeah.
He's all cut up and stuff. He's pretending to be the liquid fire guy. Your man doesn't fall for that. And then he gives him the ship won't let me die. It's blah, 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 blah. And they have a pointless fight because your man had a detonator. So he just fights him until he can get back to the detonator.
Yeah, so because like before Lawrence Fishburne goes deeper into the Event Horizon, set on the strain and whatnot, the last two remaining survivors, Lieutenant Stark and Cooper, they get sent to stasis, and they're going to try and pretty much survive in the depths of space until they're found and rescued. And Lawrence Fishburne initially is going to go with them, but then he decides that he's going to go down with the ship, kind of thing, like a captain should do, really. So he decides to pretty much, kamikaze style, he's going to go and blow up the quantum drive, which in turn will destroy the Event Horizon or whatever the fuck. So like this is where, as you said, he fights with Sam Neill. And like, man, with Sam Neill, like, do you like certain elements of this felt like they were trying to make Sam Neill feel kind of Pinheadish, like, you know what I mean?
Like he's, because they brought him back and they gave him back his eyes, but he was completely covered in lacerations all over his body. Like, you know, there was clearly he he was literally physically tortured, but he loved it.
Yeah.
You know, he wanted it, and that is Pinhead. Like that's
Pain and pleasure.
Yeah, pain and pleasure, and indistinguishable, and all this kind of stuff. But,
I couldn't remember the next part. I was like, I know Noel's going to finish it if I said the first part.
Indistinguishable. But
good old reliable Noel John.
But he blows himself up and he saves the day, and it kind of this is the.
Well, before that, remember Sam Neill gives him a glimpse into the hell dimension and what he'll do to his crew.
Yeah. Actually, that's what it is. Because I think Lawrence Fishburne was going to set a timer and at least make an attempt to get back.
Yeah.
But once he sees what he's going to do to the crew and stuff, he puts his hand through the flames and grabs the detonator, and he goes, or as your man would call it, a detonator or something.
Detonator.
Yeah. And he goes, do you see? Or something like that. And he goes, oh yeah, I see. Boom. And he pulls the, and your man just does the whole, no! Blows up. The event horizon engine is destroyed. The ship, the umbilicus is separated from the hull.
The bridge, yeah.
Yeah, and they're sent back the right direction. And then she has a dream. Then she wakes up in her incubation
72
chamber.
days later.
Stark. Yeah, 72 days later. And the guy's like, this rescuer's like, it's okay. Takes off his helmet, and it's Dr. Weir. And he's, he says something maniacal, of course. But then she wakes up for real. And she realizes that they're safe, and it's just her and Cooper and
the rescue team.
Yeah, with the actual rescue team. And then it literally just goes the end.
Yeah.
I didn't know, like, I don't know if you'd call that an open end, because like having a nightmare would be obvious to me.
Yeah.
You are having nightmares. That wouldn't be evidence that there's anything coming. That was horrific. I'm having nightmares ever since.
They should have alluded to something got from the ship onto that part of the ship. Like, have you ever seen the movie? Have you ever seen the movie Life?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds and stuff like that. Yeah.
We should do an episode on that, because the ending of that's really strong, so we won't give it away now. But
a very strong ending. Yeah.
The way they end that movie is like, I think they could have done something in a similar vein in Event Horizon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a sense that this evil has come from the depths of space, or what was it called? Something Centauri. Alpha Centauri or something was the name of this planet they were aiming for to try FTL2 or whatever. So like if something had come and that was making its way back to Earth, you know what I mean? Like, and that would have been really, really cool, because then you think, oh wait, they survived. No, they didn't. Oh wait, they survived, and you're like, what, they didn't?
And the thing is,
the
like,
end. You know,
the thing, whatever it was that came back with it was like basically ingrained in the ship itself.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly, and that's just a part of the ship. It's like you're just amputating a limb or something.
Yeah, so like you might be bringing they never like did the whole allude to the fact that you might be bringing it back to Earth with you, or that it might be inside of you, the human being.
Yeah, I think the core was I think it might have needed the core, because everything seemed.
It might have needed the core to. Yeah, the core. That's it. The core was the connection. So I guess like in one, it was a really, really good film. It could have been like, again, I could look back on it and I could definitely critique it, or like I have, but I have to say I watched that and went, that's a cool.
It's a fucking masterpiece compared to Paul W.S. Anderson's other movies, though. Like, fairness,
oh my god, like
I've never seen a guy butcher a fucking franchise like he did with Resident Evil with so much fervor. Oh my god! Like I recently just rewatched all of those movies in the past 2 weeks, just for the shits and giggles. And like, oh my god, those movies go downhill so quickly. It's like, it's kind of like the game, and then the second one's like, it's kind of more like the game, and then the third one's like, no, we're just going to like forget the games exist, but we're going to keep the name. You know what I mean? And Alice
give her superpowers.
She's like a demigod by like fucking part 3 or 4. It's ridiculous. Like
all 4,000 of her are demigods.
Yeah, clone army.
You know, like, But, no, it's true. This film was more grounded. I guess like he gets hired now to do a job. He can make money. That's what he does.
Recently made Monster Hunter, which if anyone's seen is a pile of shit too. So veer away from
it's a gigantic pile of shit. But I watched it because I was in the mood for a gigantic pile of shit.
Yeah, exactly. You watch his movies with low expectations now, and that maybe enhances the enjoyment of them. It's like a Michael Bay movie. Like if you have high expectations going into a Michael Bay movie, that's on you. That's not on Michael Bay.
that he's no
because
longer unlikable.
he's done nothing in his career to give you any impression that you should have high expectations going into any of his movies. It's like
came out, yeah.
It's like the
I
scene in
was
South
expecting
Park,
more from the
you know.
storytelling. Yeah. I was
Yeah,
expecting more from this. No, that's on you. That's 100%.
it's like Mr. Bader special effects. I don't know the difference. We know you don't.
All right, let me ask you this before we finish up. If you were to score this film, you are Mr. Rotten Tomatoes, you are Mr. IMDb. Would you recommend it? Keep it simple.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely recommend it. I give it about a 5 out of 10, and simply because there's a lot of silliness in there. Like some of the way they try to convey future technologies was completely unnecessary, and some of the technologies look completely outdated at the same time. And I hate when movies do that. You either go one way or the other. Like some movies, I think are trying their best to recapture what Alien did, what 2001: Space Odyssey did.
I know it's big white plastic buttons.
Yeah,
That looked like 80s style or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. You'd fault it, but you'd fault it, but you wouldn't recommend someone not watch it.
Yeah, 100%. I think anyone should definitely watch this. It's probably Paul W.S. Anderson's best movie. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a better one he's done. It's got a really good cast: Sam Neill, Lawrence Fishburne, Jodie Richardson, young Sean Pertwee, young Jason Isaacs. Like, it's really got a really stacked cast, and that's what I love about these movies from like the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, there's 9 times out of 10 now you're not going to see a Jason Isaacs in a sci-fi horror, or Sam Neill, maybe a Lawrence Fishburne. He was recently in Predators, directed by I can't remember his name, but produced by Robert Rodriguez, starring Adrian Brody and shit. No, he did the Predator. Predators.
He did. I knew it. Second I said it, I knew it was wrong.
From 2010, starring Adrian Brody. That one. Topher Grace. Yeah. Directed by Nimrod Antal, I think is how you pronounce it.
Well, I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, either would I, to be honest. Would you recommend it, or do you think it's aged
Oh
well?
I think the special effects haven't necessarily aged well, but like I said to you before recording, that's what they had at the time. That was bleeding edge. You can't hold that against the film.
Yeah, CGI was very new in '97. Like,
I think if you're into more modern horror films, I think it give you a great starting point for a lot of what space horror is now.
Yeah,
I don't think there's much space horror that hasn't seen Event Horizon.
Yeah, like something I touched upon earlier before we start recording was like I think it's Pandorum with Ben Foster. It's inspired, like, and if you look at Sunshine, like it's definitely had a lasting legacy, whether people realize it or not. Like, there's plenty of Event Horizon in Sunshine and how they convey fear, and claustrophobia within space. You know what I mean? I just think Sunshine did it better. Danny Boyle's a better director. Without like, I don't think I'm making a bold claim there.
No, you're not. No, geez, you're not ruffling many feathers. But still, at the same time, I gave it a template of what works, and even sometimes a film showing you what doesn't work is valuable information. Yeah, it does that well.
Like, it's a little bit hammy at times, but it's kind of a good hammy. Like, Sam Neill chews up the scenery in every fucking scene he's in. Like,
Yeah.
He's like, what I mean? He's like the stereotypical villain of the 90s. Really, like.
Yeah.
The over the top manic guy obsessed with his work, that kind of thing.
In pursuit of knowledge, yeah.
Yeah, people are just expendable collateral, like,
Yeah, that is how we've used it. Well, I'd say for me, it's definitely one worth watching. It was definitely one I enjoyed revisiting. I think the concept was executed really, really well. I thought it didn't go the aliens route. It went to genuinely almost satanic devil.
Yeah, it's like hell in space.
Of it. Hell in space, and it took from Hellraiser, and it took from maybe some of the older sci-fis of the 60s and 70s, and it made something that was kind of refreshing for its era, and I think has had huge knock-on effects in films we're seeing in the horror genre today. So I tip my cap to it 100%.
And I did a very little research for this movie, but I was looking up to see if Paul Anderson was Paul W.S. Anderson, and I hear there's an Event Horizon TV show on the horizon. So it should
be quite the event.
So, like, do you think, like, if you look at this story, do you think it would lend itself well to a longer form of storytelling?
Yes, I think with the right people involved, I think it could. A single series, I think it could.
like
series.
like a limited series or something like 10
Yes,
episodes long.
exactly. I think it could.
Would
If
you
just that
like?
way it's a good concept, but you're not bleeding it for the sake of bleeding it.
Would you like to see the events of the Event Horizon? Or, like, would you like to see, like, from the point of view of the Event Horizon goes into space and they tear through the black hole and go to whatever Alpha Centauri or whatever the fuck that planet's called, and we actually see what happens to the crew? Because you could actually
Yeah.
you could do it 2 seasons long, where the first season is what happens to the crew in the Event Horizon.
All you want,
and the second season then is Lewis and Clark.
Yeah, if that's it. As long as they plan that when they start making it, and not like they make the series, it's popular, and they find some silly reason to come back. You know what I mean? If they go in with that being the scope, then I'd love it. And if not, if the series does well and they go, what if we prequel this or sequel this, or what if we change this or alternate reality this? Then no. Just big picture. I'd like to see a big picture, because it is a big picture. It's an interesting concept. But you know what? The proof will be in the pudding.
And do you think that would you prefer if they go like tell a different story, or kind of stay truer to what's been
a different story with kind of tips of the cap? You could introduce a couple of new characters. It was a very small crew. You could definitely expand on that. And you could keep it fresh. You can bring in a lot of what's been learned in the last 23 years into cinema and use it. But yeah, I'd like them to use the film as a template, all right. But at the same time, I'd like them to reach further into it, and definitely use the hell dimension and stuff like that more.
Because there was a lot left on the table in the potential mythos or whatever set up in the universe of Event Horizon, and like you could even maybe expand it. You could show what kind of world these characters come from, live in, because they kind of touch upon it, but they never really delve into it.
They really don't. Yeah, that's it, and it does. I do. It'll lend itself to a series, and we'll definitely critique it.
Over 20 years later, Event Horizon, in your opinion, aged well and well enough to be held in a high regard, and you'd obviously recommend. Yeah,
I think it paved the way. So yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me. It really does. 6 stars out of 10.
So you give it 6 out of 10. Yeah, it's pretty much just like a steady representation of the genre. It's a good sci-fi horror.
Yeah.
And it asks a lot of interesting questions, and it's an interesting premise too. But so before we get the fuck out of here, we know it's a short episode tonight, but we're short on time, so we blasted through it. Noel, do you have anything else you want to say in Event Horizon before we leave?
Well, I guess I'll see you at the next event on the horizon. Boom!
This fucking great. Flawless victory.
It was the execution I think people are going to really like.
Since we talked a bit about it tonight, do you want to do Sunshine next time out?
I think that would be a nice fluid way to go about it.
Cool. So next time out, we're going to do the Danny Boyle directed Sunshine, starring Chris Evans, Cillian Murphy, and a lot of other actors. So Noel, we get
I have to get out of here, but thanks for listening, folks, and it's goodbye from him, and it's goodbye from me.
Right, so I'm your host, Vincent Green. He's your host, Noel John Tootie. This is the Invasion of the Potty Snatchers, your one-stop shop for everything goes chop, chop, chop. And that's another episode, folks. We're getting the fuck out of here. See you next time.